I'm Alex Morash, and let's corrupt politics. DOJ reports labels Biden LGBTQ plus policies anti-Christian, proposes rollbacks. A 197-page report released Thursday by the Department of Justice Task Force to Eradicate Anti-Christian Bias claims that pro-LGBTQ policies under former President Joe Biden conflict with Christian beliefs. The claims are made despite Biden's Roman Catholic faith and support from many Christian groups for LGBTQ inclusive policies. The report says, quote, the Biden administration's policies regularly clashed with a Christian worldview and burdened traditional religious practices, end quote. The report cites policies stemming from the Supreme Court's 2020 ruling in Bostock v. Clayton County, which established that anti-LGBTQ plus discrimination is a form of sex bias discrimination under federal law. The report criticizes the administration's use of the ruling to expand protections for transgendered people in schools, healthcare, and workplaces. Among its findings, the report targets the 2024 foster care rule requiring additional training for providers seeking placement of queer youth. It claims such policies limited Christian families' abilities to practice their beliefs, alleging some lost foster licenses. The report also criticizes a 2022 executive order against conversion therapy and symbolic actions such as pride flags at U.S. embassies, and recognition of Transgender Day of Visibility. Developed under a 2025 executive order on eradicating anti-Christian bias, the report has proposed actions including restricting gender-affirming care, expanding religious exemptions, and allowing faith-based discrimination. Critics, including Americans United for Separation of Church and State, called the report's discoveries unfounded, while the Freedom from Religion Foundation described the report as a political document masquerading as a civil rights analysis. Well, all this talk about how Biden's been awful to Christians, this is the nicest thing I've heard about Joe Biden in a decade. My God. There's a couple things going on here. One, this is absolute, complete, and utter bullshit. Besides the fact that, just respecting queer people is not anti-Christian, Joe Biden doesn't actually have the most perfect record on these issues. In fact, during the Obama administration, the president actually had to set him down and tell him to stop saying things about how different religious groups should be exempted from birth control. Mm-hmm. He got in a lot of trouble for that. So he's actually much more pro-religious freedom than the rest of the Democratic Party, but still, I think he did the right actions just by following the Supreme Court on this. And the idea that this is somehow anti-Christian is hysterical, but this is not new for Trump. I once wrote in The Advocate, the headline, how a doctor's morality leads to dead LGBTQ people, wow, specifically about how the Trump administration's first term was trying to make it so that a doctor could use their faith or moral values to just not treat a patient. Mm-hmm. Which is disgusting, and that's exactly what they're trying to do again, as usual. They don't care about our lives, they only care about their lives.
Well, and this is a shot at gay kids, because the prospective adoptive parents, prospective foster parents that had to undergo training to be sensitive so that they could, give a safe place to LGBT kids. Good for them, because those kids dodged a bullet.
Yeah.
Those kids really dodged a bullet. And let's take a moment to remember what freedom of religion is, okay? It's the government allows you to practice your religion. It does not allow you to use your religion as a cultural, metaphorical, or actually in some cases physical bludgeon to hurt people who disagree with you, and to people who are like, oh no, get off the cross, we need the wood.
Honestly, calling equality anti-Christian is a far reach, okay? Faith should uplift, not exclude, like they do right here at Sunshine Cathedral where we're at right now. If your belief system needs discrimination to survive, maybe it's not just us that needs fixing.
Yeah. It's so funny how we pick and choose the parts of the Bible that we want to be able to, quote and believe in. But when I was in D.C. last week, I actually got a chance to see the show 1776. And I'm not sure if anyone's been able to see that, but it hasn't been around for years. But they brought it back for the America's 250th anniversary. And it's basically just the retelling of how they scripted how they got to signing the Declaration of Independence. And like what John mentioned, about, there was a whole conversation about, the unions coming together, and for people to be able to have some place to practice freely practice their religion. You know, this is something that was ingrained in the founding of this country. So to me, I don't understand why we've lost track of that.
Exactly. You know, we were talking earlier about the Declaration of Independence. They did have a discussion on if they should include religion, and they didn't want to. And maybe that should be like a little hint today to not do this sort of stuff. Like I say, the best thing, I love the name of one of the groups that was mentioned, Freedom from Religion. Like, yes, some of us just want to be left alone from your religion. Thank you.
Well, there is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by sharing them and subscribing to Queer News Tonight.